the thought stopping technique, which is another really simple technique, which is brilliant. So it's starting to be aware what your patterns are, your difficult patterns of behavior connected with your anxiety. Starting to listen to how you talk to yourself, what you say to yourself, how you can reduce your anxiety, how you can start to be aware of those difficult thoughts, having a diary and starting to identify what your specific triggers are and your patterns are that are linked to your anxiety, and working with the difficult thoughts that you have.
Today's guest is Kate Hudson Hall, a psychotherapist, podcaster, and author of Bulimia Sucks. Kate has just released her new book, Anxiety Hacks book, with self-help proven techniques, tools, and tips to break challenging behaviors connected to anxiety. Welcome, Kate.
Oh, Anita, thank you so much. It's great to be here.
It's a pleasure. I'm excited for our conversation.
Me too.
So, what is one of the most courageous things that you have done?
The most courageous things. I think one of the most courageous things is to work through 15 years of an eating disorder and to actually come out the other side and say I'm recovered.
Wow. Excellent.
Yeah.
Absolutely fantastic. I'll touch more on that a bit later. So, what took you on your journey of being a psychotherapist? Did this naturally fall into place from your own experiences?
Yeah. Well, once I got to the point where I wanted to reach out for help for my eating disorder, and I saw a number of different therapists, and then I eventually found a therapist I felt really comfortable with, that I felt I could open up to. So I then spent four plus years with her. She was just such an enormous help. And when I was seeing her, I never had a father. He died when I was 2. So my mother and father was like one, it rolled into one. And I was very, very close with her. And she developed cancer when I was seeing this therapist.
Really?
And then all of a sudden, 2 years later, she died. And I do believe that if I hadn't been seeing that therapist, I wouldn't be here today.
Oh,
I
wow.
truly believe that. She helped me so much. And then when I sort of finally moved on and came out of my eating disorder and worked through all difficult, horrible experiences that I'd had when I was younger, it was like a dawning. It was like, I want to be able to help other people how I've been helped. So that's when I decided to train to be a psychotherapist.
That's fantastic. And yes, like you say, I'm sorry about your mother. And once we go through something ourselves, we do tend to realize, okay, I'd like to give back. I'd like to help others that have experienced what I've experienced. And of course, you have the understanding, you understand the struggle. And who better than to help people like yourself?
Yeah, I think it does make a big difference. Not every therapist has to have gone through that experience, but I think it's more of an insight into what the person's going through.
Excellent. Yeah, definitely. Tell me more how one can recognize, because I'm going to talk a bit more about your book in a minute. Tell me more how one can recognize that they have anxiety, and it's not just about worrying. What are the actual signs? I mean, I'm sure on some level we all have anxiety, and sometimes it's heightened. But what are the actual signs? How do we recognize that?
Well, as you say, Anita, that everybody has anxiety, and that's a normal, natural, emotion to go through. So for example, if you were going for an interview, you would get somewhat, nervous and anxious then. But it's when somebody is in a certain situation where they are stressed consistently, sort of up at a level consistently, and when we are stressed and anxious, our body produces cortisol. So when somebody is consistently in a stressful situation, which nowadays seems to be much more prevalent and much more common that people, with social media and the pressures,
Mm.
in life, people are sort of stay up at this heightened state. So their body is producing cortisol consistently. So as that happens, then the anxiety, you stay up at that level, and then your anxiety levels stay up there. So you're just consistently up at this heightened level with the anxiety. So it's so debilitating for people, and really, people find it so hard. I know because I had it from the age of 5,
Mhm.
um, and have had it on and off throughout my life, particularly when I had the eating disorder. And I even get it now, but I have the tools to be able to calm myself and
Mhm.
work with it. But nowadays, people just seem to, everybody seems to, particularly after COVID, there's been
Mm.
some big shifts, big changes, and the statistics show that so many more people now have anxiety than they ever did. And I'm sure a lot of it is to do with how the quick pace of our lives now, and then
Mm.
also with the internet and social media, it's all just like more and more pressure.
Yes, definitely. Absolutely. And how does depression link into anxiety?
Yeah, there's
You
sort
know.
of it depends on the individual, but it's kind of
Mm.
interwoven
Mm.
anxiety within depression. And the difficult negative thinking and behaviors, makes the person feel really worried, stressed,
Mhm.
and anxious.
So how can one realize they need help for the anxiety and it's not just, everyday life, that
Yeah.
there's an actual issue there, they need to get some help?
Yeah. I think, people will know if because their anxiety,
Mhm.
well, their levels will be they'll be feeling anxious all the time. And it's not just, going for that interview or going
Mhm.
into a stressful situation where the anxiety rises, and then after time it will come down. The cortisol in your body rises, and then and then it drops, and then you feel calmer again. But it's the people that stay up and they're just constantly anxious all the time. And there could be people with anxiety could have so many different triggers, different types of anxiety, and so many triggers, and yeah, feeling consistently anxious.
Yeah, I mean, life can get confusing for us all, and at some stage, how do we start to identify our emotions like depression, anxiety, and get help to get, like you've just said, actually, in a more positive outcome? What can we do to recognize things like that? Are just going for a walk to get a positive outcome, talking to friends? What would you say?
So that's sort of one of the reasons why I wrote the book, because I've been
Mhm.
working with people with anxiety, well, for the last 22 years, as long as I've been practicing psychotherapy. And I do a number of other different therapies. So I practice NLP, neuro linguistic programming. I teach emotional freedom technique,
Mm.
which is really interesting because Boy George has just been on I'm a Celebrity, and he's been
Yes.
tapping away he has. Oh, I love it. I love it, to help to reduce his difficult thoughts and feelings, anxieties. And so it's having the tools. I mean, if your anxiety is very severe, the very first thing you should do is go to see your doctor, and speak to your doctor about it. And there are medications that you can take if it is very severe. But it's also, if you can,
Mhm.
through your health practitioner, GP, your health insurance, or if you're in the UK, ask to see if there's some sort of talking therapy that is accessible to you. But in the UK, that seems to be very limited at the moment, and has been forever. But you know,
Mhm.
and looking for a therapist to be able to help you. But that's one of the reasons I wrote the book, because it is very difficult for people. And in the book, there's so many different ways, tools, and techniques for people to be able to experiment with. Because everybody's different. So
Yeah.
it's finding what works for you,
Mm.
and to be able to calm those difficult behaviors and to be able to calm yourself.
Hmm. So do tell me more about your book. It's just been released, hasn't it? And it's called Anxiety Hacks. I'm
Yes.
excited to hear more about that.
Yes, yes, it's very exciting. So
Mm.
it's anxiety hacks, so proven techniques, tools, and tips to calmness. So,
Mhm.
like I said, there's many, many different ways for you to be able to calm yourself. And there is also, I created a companion course to go along with the book. So
Okay.
it's a free downloadable companion course that you have access to that shows the person how to follow through with the techniques I teach in the book. And they're simple techniques, and then there's more insight and downloadable tables in the course and things. But it's having the right tools to be able to calm yourself. For example, I teach the emotional freedom technique, the tapping technique, and it's all very well reading it, but actually
Yeah.
following somebody as they take you through the steps to be able to do that, that's really helpful. People find that so helpful. And then so for people that don't know, so emotional freedom technique, it's tapping on a routine of points while thinking
Mhm.
about any negative feeling which you can, or thought that you can reduce down. It's completely bizarre. I always say that to my clients, completely bizarre, but it does work. It's
Yes.
fantastic. And the good thing is you don't even have to believe in it. You just
Mm.
practice it, just do it, and it works. So it's learning. So and it's easy to use. So once you've learnt the points, the specific points to tap on, then you can use it anytime, anywhere. Oh, it's
Wow.
fantastic. Even my clients, if they're at work and they're feeling
Mm.
anxious, they just nip into the loo, into the toilet, bathroom, and they can do some rounds of tapping. And then they come out, if they've had a difficult situation at work and they're stressed or whatever it is, and you can really be able to calm yourself using that technique. Oh, I love the tap. So I'm so proud of Boy George on there doing it.
Mhm.
And then also, I talk about the thought stopping technique, which is another
Okay.
really simple technique, which is brilliant. So it's starting to be aware
Mhm.
of what your patterns are, your difficult patterns of behavior connected with your anxiety, starting to listen to how you talk to yourself, what you say to yourself, because we have 60,000 different thoughts approximately that go through our mind every day. And it's so difficult to
Mm.
believe that, but that, for the majority of people, that's how many thoughts that you have every day. Some are at the front, some are just floating in the back, and then, and all the really strange thoughts that you have, they don't need to be there. The thought stopping technique is, first of all, you start to be aware of the difficult thoughts that you have, and maybe the thoughts that you have connected with your anxiety or something stopping you from doing something. And then once you're aware of those, you start, if you're on your own, you'd shout stop out loud.
Mhm.
And then what you would do is you would tell that voice to get lost, however you wish, in whatever terminology you wish. So you shout stop, tell it to get lost, and then maybe take a nice deep breath and then allow your whole body to relax. And then what will happen is that the thought will come back in. So then you need to do it again. But the
Mhm.
more that you do it, the quieter that voice becomes. It's really simple, but it's really powerful. Brilliant, brilliant technique. Um, and then, of course, I talk about the breathing. A lot of people with anxiety, they know that they've probably used by taking a deep breath, and then they can relax themselves. But a lot of people don't understand why and how they do that. And so I do like to talk about this, and I explain it in the book. Is that we have two nervous systems that run through our body. We have the sympathetic nervous system, and then we have the parasympathetic nervous
Mhm.
system. I love it, Anita. You're nodding your head. And the sympathetic nervous system is connected to the fight or flight state, so to
Mm.
that anxious part of you. And then the parasympathetic, the other one, that's connected to your normal calm state. So when you breathe in through your nose for the count of 4. So
Mhm.
only 4. And then you hold it for as long as you can, which up to 8 would be fantastic, but we don't want you collapsing on the floor.
Yeah.
So however long you can. And then you breathe out through your mouth to the count of 8 as well. So it's 4, 8, 8. So if you just remember 4, 8, 8, that is how you do it. So that is working with, when you're breathing in, you're accessing the anxious state. So you only want to do it for a short space of time. And then when you breathe out for much longer, and make sure that you breathe all the way down to the base of your tummy, because it's all connected and it's all going to help you get into that parasympathetic, calm, normal, natural state. So I think it's really important that people understand how to do it and why they do it. And then within the book, I also, there's a number of different acupressure points that are specifically for anxiety. Whereas I was talking about the tapping technique, the specific technique for people, the specific point for people that have anxiety is the collarbone point.
Oh.
So the collarbone point is the two bones that come down right underneath your chin. Those two bones. If you tap on those two bones, you can use your right hand, your left hand, or use both hands with two fingers. Boost down your anxiety. So if you are aware of your anxiety and you are with people, you could either just tap on the point, or if you felt really uncomfortable about making it too obvious, you could just rub that point in a circle, and that will be able to calm down your anxious feelings. So that's the specific point for the emotional freedom technique for anxiety. Oh, yes, fantastic. And then there's many other different acupressure points that I show. There's another point specifically for anxiety, is the web between your thumb and your index finger. But if you're pregnant, it's important that you don't use this because it could start off the labor. So, but the point to help to calm you is to just rub that area in a circle for, say, 5 seconds, and you'll notice a difference. You'll notice that you start to calm down. So there's lots of different points on the body that you can use with the acupressure, which is brilliant. There's another technique in there, which is a neurolinguistic programming technique, which I love this technique. And my clients, they all find it really amazing. So if you were to be in an anxious state, what you need to do is, and I call this the spin and wind technique, which is in the book. So it's tuning in to where you feel that anxiety in the body. So it's, a lot of people say they have it maybe in their stomach or their chest. So it's tuning in. So stopping and just really getting a tune with that difficult feeling that you're having. And what happens is that it'll be moving. So it'll either move in a circle clockwise or anti-clockwise, or it'll move up or down or side to side. So they are the only ways that it can move. And then what you do is you could hold your finger and imagine getting hold of that difficult feeling, and then with your finger, just move your finger in a circle or an anti-clockwise, clockwise or anti-clockwise. And as you get hold of that, you can feel which way it's moving, because it normally moves in a circle. And then you turn your finger to get in time with that specific feeling. And then what you do is speed it up, and you'll feel the anxiety get slightly worse. And then what you're going to do is you're going to quickly start to reverse the circle and turn your finger to help you with that, and then spin that circle in the opposite direction. And I have some people imagine like a big circle of, say, blue arrows going around, so they can also see it in their mind's eye to help them get in tune with that feeling. So it's tuning in, finding which direction it's going in, and then reversing that direction. And you'll find that it really reduces down your anxiety immediately. Brilliant technique.
Wow. Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's fantastic. And all the listeners, please do try that.
Yeah.
It's a handy tool. I mean, you've given so many tips. That's absolutely fantastic. My favorite would be the collarbone. You just have to rub it. You don't even have to tap it, and
Yeah,
nobody need to know what you're doing.
yeah. So if you're in a meeting or something, you could
Yeah.
just rub that, and
Yes.
nobody would know.
Yeah,
Brilliant.
absolutely. Oh. So you're the host of the podcast Bulimia Sucks. Tell me more about that.
Yeah. So when I came out with my first book, also called Bulimia Sucks, I decided I wanted to reach out further to help
Mhm,
people. So I set up the podcast, and that was almost 2 years ago.
mhm,
And I talk to people that have an eating disorder and where they are in their journey, and maybe what's helped them, what's guided them towards really making that decision to step on their recovery path. Because I think that's
mhm,
that's quite a big step to take. So it's good for people to hear how other people have done it. And then I also speak to professionals who work with people with eating disorders. And quite often they've also had their own experience with an eating disorder. So it's hearing people hearing that they're not alone, and there's so many other people that
mhm.
have been through what they've been through, and to be able to also hear that they can recover. And
Yes.
it is a gradual process, a slow process, which is really important for people to understand. There aren't any overnight fixes. And
Mhm,
it's being able to hear other people's experiences and learn from those, to be able to sort of incorporate them in your own life, and hear what ways, what tools has helped them to move forward in their recovery path. And we've had over 30,000 downloads now, so I'm
mhm.
excited about that. So that's good. It's great to just the fact that hopefully we're reaching out and helping people.
Definitely. That's fantastic. Yes. You have given us so many tools, daily steps, and tips on anxiety hacks. What would you say is the most important takeaway?
What would I?
Daily tips and tools for hacking your anxiety.
Mm. Well, I think it's really important that you find what works for you. I think
Mm,
that is the key. So that's why I've packed so much into this book. It's going through and experimenting and seeing what works for you, and seeing, how you can reduce your anxiety, how you
mm,
can start to
mm,
be aware of those difficult thoughts, and I talk about, having a diary and starting to identify what your specific triggers are and your patterns are that are linked to your
mhm,
anxiety, and working with the difficult thoughts that you have. Because yeah, we have 60,000 approximately different thoughts that go through our mind, but the statistics show that 95% of those thoughts that we have each day are the same thoughts that we had the day before, and the day before that, and the day before that.
mm,
So it's starting to identify with those thoughts. And for people overall, for all of us, the way we were created, if you like,
mhm,
75% of those thoughts that we have are negative thoughts anyway. So if
mhm,
you're not in a very good place, or you have anxiety or an eating disorder or whatever you may have, you know, there will be an enormous amount of negative thoughts going on. So it's starting to very gradually identify what those negative thoughts are connected with your difficult behavior, and starting to identify those by writing them down. So when you're aware of, oh my gosh, I can feel that difficult feeling come up. What was I thinking
mm,
about right before that happened? Oh, I was thinking about, having an argument in my head that I'd embellished and made up about some situation that I've got coming up. So it's starting to identify what those triggers are. And then there's a specific technique to be able to help you with your triggers in the book as well. So it's starting to tune into your thoughts, and then also tuning into the feelings, because they're both connected.
mhm.
Those
Yeah,
thoughts create feelings, and the feelings then, create the thoughts.
fantastic. Thank you, Kate. That's brilliant. So, where can the listeners find you online, your books? What's your website?
Oh, thank you, Anita. So the book, the first book, Bulimia Sucks, is on Amazon. So if you just put that into Amazon, you'll be able to find it there. Also, Anxiety Hacks, that's up on Amazon. And yesterday we had over 500 downloads of it.
Excellent.
So it's on there as a Kindle and a paperback and a hardback at the moment. I'm going to make an audiobook to go with it. So that's all up on Amazon. And then if you wanted more information, you could email me, because I love to get emails from people and I always respond. So that's katehudsonhall@gmail.com. And my website is katehudson-hall.com.
Excellent. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing your courageous journey with us today, and by doing so, I know you have helped so many others. Kate Hudson Hall.
Thank you, Anita. It's been fabulous to talk to you.
Thank you. And we are all Create the Courage to be Fearless podcast here. So what is your definition of courage?
Courage is taking that control of whatever situation you're in and starting to put that first step on to your recovery path, whatever direction that might be. Starting to figure out that's it. It's making changes.